your child at St Joseph's many, many years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, you probably had a conversation with Mark or myself around the enrolment at that period of time, or possibly even Chris Curran, and we probably showed you through. But there was something about the school that you liked, and you connected with our school to make you want to send your child here. I probably want to reinforce that there's a lot that's changed in the school. There's certainly been a lot that's changed for the good in the 4 years that I've been here as well. But at the core of that is that not much has changed as far as the people in the school, the care that school shows, and the wraparound impact that our school has the ability to have on students in its care. So there's lots of underpinning reasons, but they're the core reasons what I think makes St Joseph's Murray Bridge a special place. We can talk about the Catholic values, they're absolutely important. We can talk about all those things up there, but core to it is that we've got a great community school, one that wraps around every child, one where every teacher knows every child in the school as well. That was something that existed 6 years ago, and I do believe it's going to exist into the future as well. So it's unlike any other school that I've experienced. I've taught at 7 other Catholic schools, and I keep coming back to the culture that exists in St Joseph's Murray Bridge as well. There's a lot of things that happen in this school as well that give students voice, that give them the opportunity to grow as learners. And they're so pivotal, those key things that aren't really explicit. We don't really talk about them much, they just sort of happen. But they're such important skills for our children to grow. We talk about engaged learners, inquisitive thinkers, empowered creators, relationship building. They're all key things that we want our children to be when they grow up. We want our children to be leaders in whatever area they end up being in as they grow up. So we pride ourselves on being a Catholic school, and I think the Catholic values underpin everything that we do in our school. We value strong relationships. Every appointment that's made, we consider the relationships that these teachers are able to build with children. The appointment of Annette was certainly very similar to that. Annette, we know, had strong relationships with the students and girls at Kildare, so that was certainly favourable because we do value that, and I know that each and every one of you value that as well. We obviously look at being global citizens as well, hence the early uptake of iPads many, many years ago. We never thought at that period of time that we would have encountered something like COVID last year and this year. We're fortunate that I think South Australia got away with it for 3 days at home. But consider living in Melbourne, the reliance on remote learning, and this school was certainly ready for that and pretty agile in that space as well. And ultimately, we're on about student achievement. So student achievement not only academically but also in the wellbeing space, because the two work in synergy together. If a child's wellbeing is out of kilter, they're not going to achieve academically either. If they're not achieving academically, normally the precursor is their wellbeing. So they are key to what we try and do here at St Joseph's Murray Bridge, trying to get the wellbeing of every child right, and trying to optimise their learning outcomes for themselves as well. And that's only built on relationships that we have with the children, but also understanding of how the children learn and understanding of how we can best support children in whatever phase they're growing through, whether that's from reception to year 3 or whether that's through adolescence, from year 6 in some cases up to year 9. I did front load our session tonight with lots of information about the build, the curriculum and everything I knew up to that point. And I did that for a reason, because I wanted to reassure you that the school is in a great position to start next year. I was a bit concerned when someone said to me on my first day here, rightly so, there was just a foundation. I don't think that building's going to be finished in time for the middle school next year. So I thought, there's a little bit of work to do here. So I can assure you that the building will be finished, and I think even in the last 4 or 3 weeks, we've seen a lot of growth in that building. The walls going up. They're going to pour the first floor slab as well, I believe on Friday. So I can share with you specifically, it's meant to finish in mid-October. They are running 3 weeks behind at the moment, but we will catch up that 3 weeks, if not 4, by the end of the build as well. So I know everyone's seen a fly-through. I'm not going to show that again, but if you haven't, has anyone not seen it? If you haven't seen it, it's going on in the office near Mr. Gates and Mrs. O'Neill's desk, so you can see the outside. In the coming weeks as well, I'll share with you an internal fly-through of what it might look like on the inside as well. So that's being prepared at the moment. So as soon as I get my hands on that, I'd love to share that with you. And I'll do that via the newsletter. And I'm also going to share it with the students as well. At some point in time as well, in the next few weeks, the students will get invited, not next few weeks, better next term, the students will get invited to walk through the building, the incomplete building. So they'll have hard hats on and high-vis vests and everything to get a feel for the space as well, which is so important. So they can begin to own the space, which is important for adolescents because they need to belong in that space, and part of that is ownership of their space as well. So there's lots of things, and I'm sure you, in previous meetings, you've learnt all about the building, etc., and what's in it. But core to it, what is in it, are good staff and great students. And ultimately, the combination is going to get great outcomes for your children as well as they progress through the middle school. It's so important, the core elements of understanding every child. That doesn't change. And it's important that we continue that. We're a small school, we know that. But the great thing about being a small school is that every child is known. Every child in what they do is known as well. So, and every child's results, learning, academic and well-being are known. And we can begin to actually tap in to students to ensure that they maximise their full potential. Interestingly, in the research coming out at the moment, is that if you can track a child between year 3 to year 9, you can predict their year 12 outcome within 7%. It's pretty amazing. So hence we're starting to collect data in this space, which is going to inform that. But the great thing about knowing where a child's going to land is that we can influence where they're going to land as well. So if they're not achieving to their full ability, we can help them do that. So, and that we've got 3 dioceses in New South Wales already predicting year 12 results based on data that they've collected from year 3 to 9. So it's so important. It's important as well around students belonging in their place of school, because what we know is that if students are able to succeed from reception to year 9, they're going to excel in year 12. So that's really important. It's around supporting children through their change, through adolescence, that's going to make that super important. Because we know that the students lost between years 10 and 12, there's 4,700 students who are lost, between years 11 and 12, lost every year. So we don't want children to be lost. And the important thing about not being lost is being known. So that's so crucial in the development of the school, but the core underpinning reasons as to why we wanted to move to a middle school as well. There's 3 of us, and I'm sure there's parents in the room who have worked in secondary schools as well, myself included. We know that it's a tricky time. We know that the band gets stretched. the relationship between mum and dad gets stretched during that time as well. As students go through change, their own personal changes. But it's important to have networks around them, school network, home network, club network, to ensure that they stay connected with their community and stay connected with their school, but most importantly, stay connected with their family and have a great sense of self as well. These were the questions that came out. I thought I'd share them openly. We haven't doctored them at all, they're pretty raw. So these were the questions that were given to us in the RSVP process. So I've highlighted them different colours because we intend to answer each and every one of those questions in different parts of tonight's presentation. So hopefully we'll walk away having an understanding of where we sit with each of these questions. And I want to just reiterate that we will go back to these questions at the end to ensure that they have been answered. You've got a full understanding, and also give the opportunity to ask any questions as well. And beyond that, we'll all be standing around after if you want to come and have a chat to us with any other questions that you may have.
Time on Friday. So in Australia has some boxes and they have toys in them that we get to play with. So actually learning so we can get very smart. I think St. Joseph is like a very good school because it helps you learn all this stuff and it helps you learn more stuff that you need to learn. Well, like there's loads of inclusive people and they add you to other games, and while you're lonely you can just go to a person and they'll allow you to play with.
The fact that it's a very safe school that provides lots of amazing learning opportunities.
A science class. I think it might be year 9, year 10, or an archaeologist learning spaces learning. High school.
It's a high school, is it? Would you like to go to high school here?
Yes.
Why would you like to go to high school here?
Because it would probably be fun. It's going to be one from, keep going up to the, it's going to be up, okay? Going to be 1, 2.
2 levels.
It's going to be actually 3.
The 7 to 9 secondary school.
Well, if they could stay overnight, I would put some bunk beds and desks that can work in the bunk beds as well, so we don't have to move around. We can paint. A painting teacher. I'll make like a big area for them and then make like different areas for like different classes in the secondary school.
Make it very big, very creative, I guess, Des.
Well, I really like to learn about maths. Richer secrets. Making the boats, putting them together to make stuff. Poetry, enjoy writing poems and reading others. My favourite subject is science because I feel like, and learning about the earth is my favourite bit of it.
History, because I love learning about what happened back then. I just find it super interesting.
Are you going?
Yes.
Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, I am.
What are you looking forward to the most?
Just inside the building. I've seen pictures of what it's supposed to look like and it just looks so cool.
Should be fun.
It will be.
I guess that video gives a really nice precursor to, how well at St Joseph's we feel that we know the students in our care and the staff here feel really experienced in delivering that wellbeing component that Brady spoke about that runs alongside the learning. I'd like to reiterate a couple of points that Brady made about the uniqueness of the school and the presence of the Catholic values here. Having taught in a number of different settings myself, there is something truly unique about this place, and it's evident from the moment that you walk in. The conversations that I've had with staff since I've been here the last 3 weeks, it's so clear to me how deeply invested they are, not only in the children that they work with on a day-to-day basis this year, but the students that they've worked with for previous years and continue to see in the yard as well. I was also struck when we spoke to the Year 6 7s the other day, and I asked how many had been here since reception, and it was probably 90%. And they were proud. There was a sense of pride in that, and such a beautiful thing to see, especially in a wonderful community like Murray Bridge. So Brady did speak about our ability to know your child, and some of the measures that we do that. The Pulse survey. I'm not sure if many have heard of the Pulse survey. It's a termly check-in for our students. The ability to hear how they're going, how they're feeling about their learning and their relationships. They live in a different time. They connect differently than we did when we were younger. Technology has changed that in a massive way. So for us to be aware of how our students and how our young people are connecting and how those relationships are playing out is crucial for us to develop powerful learning for them. This is something that all CESA schools are rolling out in an attempt to better get a sense of how these children are tracking. And this gives and forms for us purposeful conversation as educators in the staff room on a daily basis. We are engaging about the well-being of each of the young people in our care. Sector, which is a learning management system, Adam might talk a little bit more about that, and the ability for teachers to track data and use it to inform their planning and their programming for their students, but also to record conversations, to document strategies, what worked with this young person, what are the things that they are going through, what is successful for them, how can they feel valued here in our community. These are things that we put at the top of our tree of priorities here at St Joseph's as well. I'd like to reiterate it again since I've been here. There's nothing quite like this school. It is so deeply powerful and it is so unique in the way that everyone connects as well. I'm so excited to see what these young people are going to be able to achieve in a beautiful new space with, like Mr. Stallard said, beautiful support and the community around them as well.
Well, good evening. So my name's Annette and I'm going to be the new leader of middle years. I haven't started yet, but I already feel part of this community. I've been made to feel really, really welcome. And I can say that I am so excited to start next term. I want to talk to you about some of the things that we're going to be putting in place for your son or daughter as they enter Year 7 and Year 8 and go on to Year 9 here. So, as we've already said, I've been part of setting up Year 7 at Kildare College when the Catholic education took on Year 7 in secondary school, and this happened about 3 years ago. And so in order to set up middle school, we looked at what is a middle years learner? What do they need? What do they like? What do we need to do? Because we realised that you can't just tack Year 7 onto a secondary setting. You really needed to change what you were doing in those years. And so at my school, we researched worldwide and we looked at what is a middle years learner. And we found that when students get to around Year 6, Year 7, they stop seeing their parents and their teachers as the font of all knowledge. And suddenly they start to question. They start to ask, why am I learning that? Why are you doing that? Is that what we should be doing? Is that what I want to be doing? And we need to take that on board. They start to ask us teachers, what's the relevance of that? Why am I learning that? And so really we need to take that into account when we're looking at the curriculum we want to teach. Now, of course, one of the things we need to do is make sure we have specialist teachers. So we will make sure that your child is taught by a teacher who knows not only the middle years, but also knows the years beyond, knows year 10, year 11 and year 12 and what's expected. And what we will do is we will take our knowledge and we will lead your son or daughter to the stage where they can comfortably move into SACE and they are successful. But we need to cater for them at the middle years. So here at St. Joseph's, we are going to introduce Heart and Smart. So Heart is a subject that is taught by a core teacher who teaches the areas of English, history, geography and religion. So this teacher sees your son or daughter for quite a period of time every day and through the week. So instead of your son or daughter moving to different classes in different rooms with different teachers, having to remember what books to take, because remember, they're not always in the same classroom, your son or daughter will be with that teacher for quite a period of time. And so they will build that relationship, just like they have in primary school, with that teacher. We then have the smart teacher, which will be me. So as a science maths specialist, I will teach the areas of science, maths and digital design technology. And so again, they will have me as another teacher that they see for many hours during the week, every day. And so again, we build a relationship. And the heart and the smart teacher will function together as a team. So together we support you as parents, but we also support the students. Now, of course, your son or daughter will also have elective subjects that they learn, and they'll also have other modules that they do. But the heart and the smart teachers will work together. And one of the things that I've been doing at Kildare is I've been living this process. And so I'd like to talk to you about a project that we would be running next term at Kildare. It's on sustainable suburbs. So as a science maths teacher, I am going to teach the students about sustainability. I'm going to teach them about what makes a suburb livable. We all know that Adelaide has just been released as the third most livable city in the world. Why? Why do people want to live in Adelaide? So we will talk to them about what makes a suburb livable, what makes a house sustainable. We would look at things like energy transfer, we would look at scale in maths, and then we will work with the heart teacher who would talk to them about things like council laws, looking at council procedures, what makes people come, for instance, to Murray Bridge. Why do you live here? Why didn't you live somewhere else? What led you here? And then together we encourage our students to design and build their own suburb. So they have to work out who's going to live in the suburb, why they're living in the suburb, what's going to be in the suburb, what type of housing is in the suburb, what sort of buildings, who are you catering for, what schools. They have to use their maths to make sure their buildings are scaled appropriately. You don't want a house that's the size of a gym. You don't want the gym that is the size of a dog kennel. So together we work to build the suburb, and then we have a big fair where you, the parents, get to come and see what they have done. We also involve people from outside of school, such as urban planners, such as people in sustainability, and they come along and they also look at the work the students are doing. Because one of the things we know is that middle year students don't want to just earn grades. They want to do something that's relevant. And to have an urban planner come up to your suburb to you, wow, that is amazing. That is as good as we would see at university. How great do those students feel? Not only have I created something I got a grade for, but I've actually created something that a person does in their job. So that is what we will be doing with Heart and Smart. We will be working together We will be bringing expertise into the field, but we'll also be ensuring that your son or daughter is excited about what they're doing. They're learning work that is relevant, so they can come home and they can say, today I did this, and guess what? This is the job that I could do if I went on in this field, and this is why I'm learning it.
Thanks, Annette. And I'll just continue on with a few things that we've got there. And you'll see with the smart related technologies, and we're going to integrate the latest and greatest technologies for our students here at the school. So we're talking 3D printers, virtual reality, augmented reality. We're going to be engaging students with laser cutters, vinyl cutters. All of that's going to be in, obviously, the latest and state-of-the-art facilities as well, which is really exciting. So that those technologies will be integrated. So they'll be able to learn how to use them and then use them for project work, use them, excuse me, for other things as well. So that's really exciting. We mentioned as well before about Sector. Sector is a wonderful learning platform for our students. It's also a wonderful engaging platform for our parents. So there's 3 elements to Sector. There's Sector Learn, which is the students. So they're able to actually log on and engage in their learning. So if they're actually home from sick or away from school for a period of time, they're actually able to log on to the learning platform, and the teachers will have uploaded onto theirs, which is called Sector Teach, what the class is doing during that day. So the students are able to continue to work whilst still being home if they're able to. The other wonderful part is Sector Engage, and that's our parent portal. So parents will be able to log in. They'll be able to see live grades, sometimes before the students even see them, because a teacher might, during the day, during some of their spare time, hit the upload button and the grades will go live and parents will be able to see it. But they'll also be able to see things like homework, upcoming assignments, excursions, and all of that will be there. So when your young people come home and say, oh no, I can jump straight on the PlayStation tonight. Oh, don't you have any homework? No, I'm all good. Well, not according to Sector here. You have to catch up on some maths or some science, so you'll actually be able to stay engaged with it. It's a wonderful learning platform. It engages our community. What we have found from our studies is when students step into high school, parents start moving away from that. One, because the students don't want them there anymore, but also the fact that it's, oh, they're in high school now, I'll let them go. Years 7, 8 and 9 are crucial in that person's development. We know that from what Brady informed us earlier, that those formation periods of time about their study habits, work habits and wellbeing are super important. Parents' involvement in that is really, really critical. So to actually continue that with already established here on site with the parent engagement, as you have been here, is fantastic. So having parents involved in learning, having parents involved in other opportunities is super critical to the development of our young people. This is a very exciting venture for us. And when I say us, it's across our sector, but in particular the schools that I'm working with. We know that from year 7, the students are starting to look for something different. They're looking to engage in a different style of learning. We know at year 8 and year 9 that needs to be deepened and further information needs to be discovered for the young people. So what we are working with at the moment is creating a timetable where students will actually have an experience in what we're calling micro-credentialing. And it is in our draft curriculum guide at the moment on page 7. So there is some information in there about our micro-credentialing mini courses, where we'll actually either take the students out of normal class, maybe off-site, maybe we'll bring in an expert onto site, and students will do mini courses in a range of different topics. I'll take one, for example, could be around a barista course. So we know that we'll have a state-of-the-art food innovation technology here at the school that's going to have a barista coffee machine. So what the students will do is they'll undertake potentially an 8-week course, 2 hours, for example, 2 hours on a Wednesday afternoon, where students will disappear into different areas and learn different things, where they'll finish up with a barista's coffee making course with a certificate ready to go. But they won't just go away and just learn how to use a machine. They'll actually learn what it is that goes into making a coffee. So understanding where the bean comes from, understanding how much it might cost to actually make a coffee, understanding some business models to it, and then finish off being trained as a barista. What does that mean? Well, it's great for parents that enjoy coffee because their children will be engaged and able to make the perfect cup of coffee in the morning. But it also means at the end, they're going to, excuse me, leave St. Joseph's with a range of school skills and certificates that they can take to an employer. So wouldn't it be great that at when they go and leave the school, they can go walk up to a local cafe and say, hey, I've got already I'm trained. You don't need to train me. I'm ready to go. And that can be through a range of different things. First aid's another wonderful thing. Actually having our young people trained in first aid. I did see an ambulance officer walk in, gave me a smile, thought, great, I'll be able to plug that one. But for our students to understand and spend some time in actually learning first aid. We are in a country community. We understand sometimes they might come across things in different properties or down by the river. Wouldn't it be great that they're skilled and trained in first aid? And we as a school will provide that to them during that time. I'm going to pass back to Annette now because she's going to be able to add on to that because it's really important in developing what we're calling our learner profiles with that as well.
Thank you. So one of the things that the SACE board has talked a lot about recently is this thing called a learner profile. Universities are now saying we do not want to just take students based on an 8R, which is a score out of 100. We want to know what skills are they bringing to our university along with their grades. So at St Joseph's, when your son or daughter leaves, they will leave with a learner profile. So they will have a portfolio essentially, or a CV. They will come out with their grades from their subjects that they can take to a job, but they will also come out with a set of skills. So they will receive levels in the key capabilities around leadership, around teamwork, around their social, personal capability, but they will also come out with a group of certificates. So imagine your son or daughter either on a web page or by hand fronting up to an employer, to an apprenticeship, to a university when they finish school. Not only do I have an 8R or grades, but guess what? I have a first aid certificate, I'm an umpire in football or netball and I have my accreditation to go with it. I'm a barista, I can make jewellery, I can do a number of things, and the universities are going to go, wow, come into our course. Because we know that as well as achieving high grades, you are an independent learner, you're creative, you can problem solve, and you're the type of person we want. So more and more universities are saying, we don't just want an exam score, we don't just want a score, we want to know what does that young person bring with them. And so at St Joseph's we'll develop this learner profile and your son or daughter will leave with that profile they can take with them to high school and then on to university, to a job, to a TAFE course, to wherever they want to go.
Thanks again, Annette. So that also brings us to the point that we're actually going to make that learning relevant to them. We're going to make that learning relevant to them and to the community because we're going to select things that are important for students to understand, not just about their local community, state community, but also a global community as well. So it's all very important to us. And it will give them a little bit of an insight into understanding what is required for work, potentially beyond for them in the future as well, and for them to trial different things. So it is a very exciting time. Engaged within all of that, we continue to keep the curriculum that we are looking is underpinned by what the school values, which is our engaged learners, inquisitive thinkers, empowered creators and relationship builders. That is what we continue to ensure that we have when we are putting together, and I thank Matthew and Sonia who have done a lot of work in this curriculum guide at the moment, that we're covering within our curriculum and bringing it back to that because that's what we want our students to be when they're going to go into their learning environment and beyond that into the community. When they actually leave St Joseph's, this is what they're leaving with. They're those 4 key sales that we continue to talk about. So we have to continue to remember that we are talking about a secondary education here. This is what we're going to prepare our students for. It is really important for us to do that, and it's important to remind the students that we're doing. We acknowledge that they come from a wide variety of backgrounds. We acknowledge that they do bring different levels of skills and that we want to grow on those skills, but we're also creating an environment for them to learn which is going to be flexible. There's going to be some independence in there. There's going to be project work, inquiry work, an opportunity to select different subjects. So within that, they will start to gain their independence and they'll get, but in doing so, a very supported way as well, which we feel is extremely important to the development of our young people. And finally, with that, and with our micro-credentialing, there might be some people that are sitting here going and looking at the examples that we've got in the curriculum guide that actually think, well, there's some other opportunities that I know in our community that could be a great idea. And an example that I've got there could be a mechanic sitting in the room that goes, well, actually, you know, I know someone, or there's a grandfather that's a retired mechanic that might want to give up 2 hours a week for 5 weeks on a Wednesday afternoon and actually engage the learners in a 5-week small motors course where you pull apart a 2-stroke engine and put it back together again and see if it works. So we're also calling on our community to say, hey, we've got these ideas, let's be innovative here, let's engage with you. What do you want your learners to learn about as well? So there is still that opportunity, and that's what we want as well. Speak to your young people, find out what other areas that they might be interested in, and saying, yeah, well, we can do this in Murray Bridge, we can do this just outside of Murray Bridge. This could happen in Adelaide, or we could get an expert up to come and speak to the students and they can be qualified in something. So we're open to those opportunities and engage with you in them as well.
I think I'm wishing I was back in Year 7. It all sounds very exciting. I've had the privilege of being part of this project from the onset, from the design on paper all the way through, and it's great to hear the excitement and the buzz that's now building, as well as the structural building outside around this project. Part of that has been around revitalising our school uniform and how we best do that to move forward, not just for our Year 7 to 9s, but also for our R6 students in our primary years. I would like to acknowledge the fact that this has been a great venture, but it's also been a very long consultation process with members of our community, our staff, and more importantly, our students. I know there's students sitting in this room tonight that have been part of this process, that have given us feedback, which is always very, very important, to listen to their voice about what they are wearing and what they're going to be comfortable wearing moving forward in their adolescent years. One of the big highlights and key points around uniform for middle years is that our students actually have a choice. They're not going to be dictated to by us saying we have to wear a summer uniform in term 1 and term 4, and in winter term 3, term 2 and term 3. They will actually have a voice and wear what is comfortable for them. They still will have a formal and a sport uniform for Year 7 to 9, and what that will look like will depend on their body temperature, depend on their choice, and depend on what they're comfortable in. So for example, they may choose to wear a skirt and a shirt and a jumper 12 months of the year. They may choose to wear long pants, a shirt and a jumper 12 months of the year. They also may choose to wear a dress and a jumper 12 months of the year. So it is entirely up to them and their comfortability of what they feel comfortable in and what they want to wear. We are hoping to have samples by term 3, week 1, and they'll be on display in our front office. And in term 4, we'll be offering free fitting days and uniform fitting days for anyone that will be starting next year. With our suppliers, with Permaplete and Campus Schoolwear, who we have engaged their services of for our new uniforms. Grandisons are still at this stage going to be our main suppliers down in the main street, and they will work with us in term 4 as well to actually be able to fit children. One of the reasons we chose Campus Schoolwear for our formal uniform is because they have offered us an additional service where they will made-to-measure uniforms at no additional cost. So I know there's a young man in Year 7 at the moment who I taught last year in Year 6, and he's taller than me. So he's probably not a standard size 12 or 14. He may need an extra pair of long pants. So Campus will actually make to measure his pants to fit him, to suit him, so he's comfortable and he doesn't feel out of place in a uniform, which I think is fantastic. All our quality products will be logoed. They won't be just off the shelf, so they will be made from a quality fabric. Fabric selection was a huge part of this process, because as I'm sure some of you know, our adolescents, and particularly if you've walked into a Year 7 classroom, sometimes it can be, oh, let's open a window or two, particularly after recess and lunch, and they've been very highly active, so we need to have fabric that breathes and fabric that's not going to absorb sweat, so we've taken that into account as well. As I said, our trans-seasonal uniform will be student voice, student choice, which for parents is fantastic. Doesn't mean you have to purchase summer and you have to purchase winter. You purchase what your child's comfortable to wear, and that's okay. We will also have new school bags, and our bags will be compulsory as of next year. The reason for that as well is because we will have a laptop section in the middle years school bag, because every student will be allocated a school laptop, and Brady will talk more about that in a moment. One of the big feedbacks also from the students was they were really sick and tired of being told off for wearing the wrong socks to school and getting notes sent home. They've got Globe written on their white socks, or they've got grey socks on and they should have blue socks on, or white socks and whatever. So one of the big feedback from the students was about having one colour sock 12 months of the year. And hopefully for parents that means you no longer have to buy lots of nappy sand to soak out white sport socks because they get dirty. So they're going with the navy socks. The image here has been supplied by Permaplate. This is our Smart Play R6 uniform, and also our uniform for sport for year 7 to 9. And it actually looks pretty good, I think. I think that's it.
In the next slide, I'm conscious that my mum and dad always said never talk about money in front of the kids, and we've got a few children in the front 2 rows. So kids, I can summarise this slide in about 5 seconds, so just block your ears for a second. No child should actually ever miss out on their education as a result of their parents' financial need. So if there's the grounding of St Joseph's is that and the mission of St Joseph's is that every child should be cared for, no matter their parents' financial background. So whether you're your Kerry Packer's son, or you're the poorest of the poor, every St Joseph's school should be able to be accessed by every child. So the fees are up there. I'm not going to talk about it, I'm talking around it, but certainly they are going to be the fees moving forward, so there'll be no further change to the fees from the current fee structure moving right forward to 2023. If ever there is a concern, now I understand as a parent that some of you may be contemplating having a bit of respite from paying fees. I know I always look forward to that when daughters graduated from year 12, but if you're not in the financial position to move forward for another couple of years, please come and see Mrs. Rowland and myself. We're happy to help out. Same with the uniform as well, same applies. So it's certainly one of those things. We don't want the fees or the uniform to be a hurdle in continuing your child's education at St Joseph's. So I know what it's like as a parent, and I brought this headset of being a parent into the conversations around what we need to do to ensure that every child, if they want to stay at St Joseph's, can stay at St Joseph's as well. Again, it is an all-inclusive school fee, and part of that all-inclusive school fee is the new laptops. We have settled on them, and we will be sending out a letter to finalise numbers on Friday to everyone in years 5, 6s and 7s, and be ordering computers before the 30th of June so that they are actually ready. There's about a 4-month wait, so they are ready by the end of the year in preparation for 2022. So we've decided on this Lenovo. It's called a Yoga, and it actually is a laptop primarily, which is great because we know that there's a couple of pivotal tests that students do, particularly NAPLAN, that they actually need to be able to type. And we need to move from iPad to computer to ensure that they can actually be prepared in the best way possible for such tests. Not only that, but also the volume of work that increases in middle school as well. It can also flip over and be a tablet as well for what students are used to, and so that they can work in collaborative ways as well across the new building and through the maker spaces as well. So that is the completion of tonight's session, and we'll just go back to the questions just to ensure that we've answered all of those. So will there be year 10 in 2024? The answer to that is anything is possible, but at this point in time it's not guaranteed. But we do know that in our sector we are looking at working with digital migration experts. So that is, they could cater for year 10. It could be presented in a number of ways. When you get into the secondary space, it's around the quality of teacher. It's pretty hard to find a physics teacher. It's even harder to find a Latin teacher if you want one. So, but all of these teachers, we have them in our sector, and we have some of the best ones. We know that one of our best mathematics teachers, who is the best in the state, sits at one of our secondary schools down in Salisbury. So there's possibilities around that, how we draw on their expertise but support their learning. So my answer to that is there's nothing solidified at the moment, but anything is possible, especially if the need is there as we move forward into 2022, 23 and ultimately 2025. I think we've rounded off on those green questions. There was a question around the impact of the kitchen on the library, and we are going to lose some of the library, but we preserve half of the library, so it goes across pretty much where the stage is in the library. But a new shift in thinking around libraries in schools is that we bring the library to the students rather than we bring the students to the library. So in their shared spaces in the new building, there'll be just books lying around, bookshelves, where students can grab an age-appropriate book, especially non-fiction books as well, fiction books. And I think there was a question around the new upper primary facilities. I don't know the answer to that question, but I did try and prepare the master plan. So there are plans for the new upper primary facilities on the master plan, but certainly they're a fair way down the track. We know that we'll have ample space for the students, but there's certainly at this point in time there won't be any new upper primary facilities. That comes in about stage 2, and this is stage 1B at the moment that we're just completing. So that will be some time, but I'm pretty sure that will occur in time. The plan suggests a gym. What's the timeline for this? Again, I haven't got any timelines on that. I know it is a part of the master plan, and it certainly will be achieved. I've got Mr. Law here just looking at me very eagerly, so especially after a day like today. But we certainly haven't got any indicative dates on that. We certainly know that that blue patch there rests over a house as well. So, and that's a little bit problematic in that we'd have to acquire that house and work with the owner of that house as well, that dwelling, before we were able to move to building the gymnasium. What's the pathways for students after year 9? And that sort of ties into the next one as well around transitions. We continue to transition students if they're depending on their pathway. We work with St Francis de Sales. We work with the high school, Murray Bridge High. We can also work with Unity as well. We currently do that, have done that for years, since I was here the first time. So we'll continue to do anything, and that the key thing is the students will take their learner profile with them and any other information with your consent that you'd like us to pass on, whether that's detailed results in testing or anything like that. And Adam and Annette finished on that last one, and subject choices, and key to that is tapping into what the students' interests are as well. So if it is small engines, let's do small engines. If it is cake making, let's do that, but we can get combinations of those happening so that we can engage students in what they want to learn as well. So that's in essence what we know at this point in time around the middle school, and I hope that it's provided some clarity I hope it's given you some confidence as well that it will be finished, and we certainly are a part of a bigger system which we're drawing on to inform that this middle school is a huge success as well. So it's not a whole lot of primary school teachers trying to run a middle school. We're appointing people like Annette, we're appointing, we've got people like Adam working with us to ensure that this is going to cater for the needs of the students moving forward as well.